right, future boy.
Alright, it's a bit of a late night review here, and the lighting might be kind of weird behind me, so I apologize for that. But I saw this movie Interstellar on Friday. I've been listening to a lot of reviews about it, so I wanted to get my review out there and put it out so everybody could see it, because I think this is a movie that needs to be seen in the theater. So, I also just learned recently that this is actually going to be directed by Steven Spielberg for a while. And that didn't end up happening. I think it had to deal with the studios that was producing it and whatnot. But, so this is Christopher Nolan's new movie. And it's written by him and his brother, Jonathan Nolan. They work together almost on all their movies together, all of Christopher Nolan's movies. And so this is Nolan's big space odyssey epic movie that he's trying to do. And lots of really good hype going into it. It's got a great cast, a couple Nolan regulars, Hathaway and Michael Caine. But other than that, a lot of new actors too. So this is very easy to spoil, this movie. Kind of like some of my other movies that I've done recently, like Gone Girl. So I don't want to get into the plot too much because, like I said, it's easy to spoil. I think people should see it. So I'll just get into the basics of the plot, and then I'll get into some things that work and don't work with the movie. So this movie follows, it's in a dystopian, not dystopian. So this is in the future on Earth. It's never stated how far into the future, but we can guess it's at least 50 or 60 years from now. Something has happened. Again, this is not explained. Something has happened with the Earth. All of the crops are dying. There's a lot of dust storms, so everybody on the Earth is running out of food, and they're getting covered with dust at the same time. They have this big problem. People are going to start starving to death because of the shortage of crops. And there's almost no technology as we know it that's in use, just because everybody who's capable is being used to farm, to produce food, just because they need it so bad. So our main character here is Matthew McConaughey. His name's Cooper, and he's a farmer, but he used to be an engineer. He used to be a test pilot for NASA, but like I said, he's on a farm. He lives with his father-in-law, Donald, played by John Lithgow, good actor. And then he has a son. He's a 15-year-old son named Tom, and a 10-year-old daughter named Murphy. Everybody calls her Murph. So they're on this farm. They're trying to produce just like everybody else. He's a former pilot. One day, and I won't get into the specifics, they happen upon a couple oddities. They find out that there's actually NASA is still around, and they're going to be setting off on a couple missions, or one mission to save the planet. So they need to save Earth and save the human race, and they tap Cooper to be the pilot because he used to be a test pilot for NASA, and he's going to help them on this mission. So some of the NASA people, this isn't spoiler stuff, it's the main cast members here are Brand, that's Anne Hathaway. She's a scientist at NASA. Her father is played by Michael Caine. And a couple other astronauts are Doyle, played by Wes Bentley. Probably recognize him from the first Hunger Games movie and American Beauty. He's the guy that was obsessed with the floating plastic bag. And another guy named Romilly. He's played by an actor I'm not too familiar with, David Gyasi. So it's those four. They're sent on this mission. Obviously, very important. Save the humanity. And I think that's where I'm going to stop. The rest of it is very spoilery, and I will say it gets into a lot of could be complicated plot lines and potentially messy. But anyways, there's a good cameo later. There's a couple good cameos. I guess I will mention, because this isn't really a spoiler either, but later, Murph is played by Jessica Chastain. She's grown up, and then Tom is played by Casey Affleck when he's grown up. Um, but again, you'll see that in the movie. So, first, I'll start with the problems. There are a lot of problems with the movie. A lot of plot holes. A couple things are just very poorly explained. And then the message overall that Nolan is telling is told it's very heavy-handed the way that they do it. All that being said, I still like the movie. I'm giving it a 4 out of 5, and I'll probably reiterate that a couple times. So, and like I said, it's hard to talk about the problems without ruining the plot, so I won't get into the specifics, but there are a lot of problems with it. But I was also at the same time, I noticed some of them here and there. I was also able to suspend my disbelief and just forget about them. Sometimes it's so critical to the plot, or it's so apparent and glaring in a movie, so plot holes, that you can't ignore them. I was able to. So, even with all the problems that there are there, I still like the movie. It was very enjoyable. I will say, they're kind of doing a dual thing with people on Earth and then the people on the mission in space. So I really like the parts in space. This is actually one of the first movies, I believe, or at least recently, that Nolan isn't working with his main cinematographer. He usually works with a guy named Wally Pfister, but he was doing his movie Transcendence with Johnny Depp, which was an awful movie. So he has a different cinematographer here, but there are some incredible scenes in space, and there's I know, gotta try to tiptoe around this. There's an area in space, a couple areas in space that they go to. One's kind of a sun that looks amazing. The visuals on that are really good. The sound design, I noticed, I'm pretty sure he's working with Hans Zimmer again here. The sound design is awesome. There's a super intense part on one of these planets that they visit. That scene is really good. I liked it a lot. And I'll just say it's a water planet, so there's like a water planet scene. Awesome. The sound design works great. And that kind of leads me to probably my favorite character out of the whole movie is, I think you see him in the trailer. I didn't watch the trailer before I started recording this. But there's a robot in the movie. His name's Tars. At first, I was kind of like, I don't know if I'm going to like this robot, mostly because of his design, the way the robot is designed. It's very unique. But then he's easily like the best part of the movie, I think. Tars is awesome. It's one of the most original aspects or takes on a robot that I've ever seen. And I think it won a lot of points on my rating overall for the movie. He's awesome. Tars. There's some really good... I thought the acting was pretty good by everybody. These are all really good actors. McConaughey does a good job. Some of the parts are kind of so-so, and there's some parts with like Anne Hathaway that are kind of don't work very well. I don't want to explain why. It'll probably be pretty apparent when you see it, and there's a couple parts I think with McConaughey that were so-so, kind of towards the end as well. But there's a couple scenes in particular that really work well. They're super emotional. They have to deal with when they're all in space and they're watching video messages. Super emotional, and they work really well. I thought that those scenes were very well done. So yeah, where do I go from here? It's so hard to talk about these movies that have a lot of spoilers to them. I will just say, so for a Nolan movie, this is unfortunately towards the bottom probably with like Dark Knight Rises, but his good movies are so good, like Inception, Dark Knight, Prestige, Memento. Those are all they're just super up there. And so like this, like I'm saying, this is probably one of his weaker movies, but it's still a 4. I think this is a movie that probably needs to be seen in theaters because it is a big epic space movie. You're gonna lose a lot if you wait to see this on your own home system unless you have some sort of crazy setup. But definitely probably worth the pay to see it in IMAX. It was shot in 70 millimeter IMAX, which is rare. I didn't get to see that actually. I saw it in 4K resolution, but it was still really good. Like I said, I think if you see it in IMAX, it's worth it for the visuals as well as the sound design is awesome. And I think IMAX also works with the sound. So I was gonna mention also, I think it would. I think this movie would have worked a little bit better if Gravity hadn't come out last year, because that movie is so well done, and it has its problems too. But that was probably one of the first big space epic movies that we've seen in a long time, and it ends up getting nominated for a bunch of Oscars. So it kind of took a little bit of the wind out of Nolan's sails for his movie. I think if they would have switched places, if this came out last year and Gravity came out this year, who knows? Who knows what we'd be saying? I mean, it'd still have its problems, of course, but maybe seeing a big space movie so recently, it doesn't have as big of appeal. But like I said, you don't get to see these very often done this way, at least recently. So I would definitely check it out. Check it out in IMAX if you can. Might be pricey. I saw it like in the middle of the day, so it's pretty cheap. But I guess I also want to throw out my movie connections, and I don't want to mention how they're connected in specific ways, but I'll just say, so there's a lot of movies that you get a feel for when you watch this. So you have a big one is going to be 2001 Space Odyssey, because people are obviously comparing this to Kubrick's epic space masterpiece. So we have 2001 Contact, which also similarly starred Matthew McConaughey, Event Horizon, Gravity, like I mentioned, and then you could throw in some of other space movies like Red Planet or Mission to Mars. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to explain why they're related or connected. But yeah, I just felt like I was going to mention something else. Oh yeah, there is a lot of science going on in this. This is like a hard sci-fi, and I watch a lot of sci-fi. I watch quite a bit of sci-fi movies. I'm not like a super hardcore like Star Trek guy or anything like that, but most classic sci-fi movies I've seen, you don't have to know all the science to get invested in the movie. So I understood a good deal of it, but it gets into a lot of space-time and relativity and a lot of these big theories, and they get into they get into it pretty deep. So you have that. It won't. I don't believe it will necessarily lose you at that point, but it could be a challenge for some people if people just don't want to try to get through that. I don't know. I think this is a good movie to watch. It's easy to follow. There are parts at the end I had problems with, and I could see it getting confusing for a lot of people. But I think give it a chance. It's worth it to see in theater, and then you can always go back and watch it again later when it's out in theater, and maybe try to piece it together a little bit. So again, 4 out of 5. Sorry I've been doing a lot of these reviews lately that are filled with spoilers, so I can't get into all the details that I want to. But I wanted to make this and put it out there because it's still in theaters, and I think you should see it that way, on the big screen and as big as you can see it. So and I'll have a sign off today. So for my sign off, I will say, I'll see you on the other side, Slick.